equalpaynetwork.org.
Musicians Bonnie Raitt and Jackson Browne joined Democratic presidential candidate John Edwards for 2 days of campaigning in New Hampshire earlier this week. They performed prior to 6 town hall meetings across the state, including this event at an opera house in Lebanon, New Hampshire. It's just over an hour.
I just want to thank Jackson Browne and Bonnie Raitt. Can we get another round of applause for them? They were awesome. They are, however, a very tough act to follow. So I'm going to let my mom do that. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kate Edwards. I'm up here with my parents. But you probably really want to hear from my mom. This is Elizabeth Edwards.
Hey, how y'all? Thank you. Since I'm actually pretty sure you're here to hear from John as opposed to us, to Kate or me, I'll be very brief and first also thank Peter for being here. I know there's been a lot of talk in recent days about celebrities being as part of this campaign. We hope that a few of you who might not have heard John before are brought in the door by the chance to meet these spectacular people, and that you understand that the reason that they're here is that they are people who truly believe in the progressive ideal, that they believe that John is a person who carries the mantle for that ideal, and that they're willing to spend their time and energy to help get you in the door so that you get to hear what he has to say, because that's the difference that's going to be required for this country to change. I'm going to say one little proviso before I start, and that is at some point in this presentation, I hope you all go on for a long time, have lots of questions for him, quiz him hard. I want you to quiz him and every other candidate just as hard as you can. But at some point, I'm going to do the Ed Schultz show live, so I'm going to get up and leave. I know we all love Ed Schultz, so y'all won't mind my getting up and leaving. It's not that I'm bored with my husband. I'm not. I want to say one little thing about it before we get started, and that is there was an article in the National Review, National Republic, New Republic several months ago called, I'm sure there's a lot of articles in the National Review to which I will not be referring. But in the New Republic, there was an article called The Accidental Populist about John. It described his policies fairly accurately, not entirely accurately. It is a news publication. But but fairly accurately described his policies and described them as populist, which I think is probably reasonably accurate. It was something that Paul Krugman yesterday agreed that his policies were populist and that he had the right attitude about how you get them accomplished, which is to fight for them. But the thing that the New Republic said was that John was the accidental populist. And nothing could be further from the truth. If you knew the arc of John's life, you would realize that none of the policies that he talks about are accidental. They're not something he read about in the New York Times or the New Republic and decided to embrace, not something some consultant whispered in his ear or even his wife whispered in his ear. These are the things that he believes at his core because of the way he was raised. He came home to a small mill village. His father borrowed money to get him out of the hospital. They didn't have a lot, but they worked hard and expected to have more because they worked hard. His father worked in a mill at the time. He graduated from high school, gone to work for exactly the same mill, worked for that mill for 36 years, moved whenever they told him to with the hopes of moving up in the mill. His mother worked folding sheets when John was born. I have to say there is not a woman in the room who doesn't believe there's a special place in heaven for somebody who folds sheets 24 hours a day. But that's what she did before John was born. And then and they did get that better life by moving around, by taking a slightly better job, moving up a shift as he moved from place to place around the Southeast. John's father finally got the job of his dreams, which is the supervisor of a small to embrace, not something some consultant whispered in his ear or even his wife whispered in his ear. These are the things that he believes at his core because of the way he was raised. He came home to a small mill village. His father borrowed money to get him out of the hospital. They didn't have a lot, but they worked hard and expected to have more because they worked hard. His father worked in a mill at the time. He graduated from high school, gone to work for exactly the same mill, worked for that mill for 36 years, moved whenever they told him to with the hopes of moving up in the mill. His mother worked folding sheets when John was born. I have to say there is not a woman in the room who doesn't believe there's a special place in heaven for somebody who folds sheets 24 hours a day. But that's what she did before John was born. And then and they did get that better life by moving around, by taking a slightly better job, moving up a shift as he moved from place to place around the Southeast. John's father finally got the job of his dreams, which is the supervisor of a small plant. Textile plant in Robbins, North Carolina. John was 11 or 12 years old. It allowed John's mother to exercise her dream, which was to own a little antique place. We used to go with her shopping at antique auctions. She would buy pieces of furniture that undoubtedly had been hauled down to North Carolina from New Hampshire, and she refinished them out on this old abandoned gas station out on the highway. I say this is a highway that you call it a highway if you lived in North Carolina or New Hampshire, but probably not many other places. It's just a two-lane road with a number, you know. But this old abandoned highway that was out there, a gas station, she'd fix this furniture up and it looked beautiful, and that was her dream job. She was lucky because she was covered by the health insurance from that textile mill. But then one day, I guess the head of the textile mill was privately owned by a man named Roger Milliken, and he decided, I guess he'd gone to a conference and some other mill owner had bragged that all the supervisors of his plants had gone to college. And so Roger Milliken came and said, you know, I think all my plant managers should go to college too. John's father had worked for this company for 36 years straight out of high school. And though he had gotten up in the morning and tried to watch those educational televisions, y'all remember those shows that used to come on real early in the morning? They'd be variations of the color green, and you'd sit there and try to learn math or whatever the subject was in front of them. John would come down and see his father do that as he tried to educate himself, to make up for the fact that he hadn't had the opportunity to go to college. That wasn't good enough for Roger Milliken. He wanted a college degree. John's father loved the men and women he worked with in that plant. He'd worked with them for years. He knew their dreams, and he wanted to make certain that that plant worked well. So he trained the young man who took his place. And then because he was a proudful man, he moved on, and he took another job. He started his own business, helping other plants become as productive as the plant that he had left. But when he left that plant, he also left his health insurance behind. He'd had rheumatic fever as a child, so he had a heart condition, and he couldn't go without health insurance. So Bobby left her dream. John's mother left her dream, closed that store, went to work for the post office, was a rural letter member of the union, the Rural Letter Carriers Union, and had health insurance because the union made sure she did. No person in America should ever have to stay in a job they hate or leave a job they love because of health insurance. And John's position with respect to this is not accidental. It is the inevitable result of the way that he lived.